The new Corbyn Sultana party has seemingly exploded in popularity. Both independent MPs released a statement yesterday announcing a new Democratic Party is being built, asking for supporters to help shape the party. They both directed people to a website, yourparty.uk. On the homepage, it states, soon we'll host an inaugural founding conference so you can help shape how your party works, what it stands for, and how we organise to win. Fill in this form so that your party and the new party that develops from it can update you on news, activities, and ways to get involved. Now, there was some confusion around the name. Some outlets, including Politics Joe and The Telegraph, mistakenly thought it was officially called Your Party. Corbyn launches hard left Your Party to challenge Starmer. But you know what? That's not the story here. The real story is the fact that at this current time, over 300,000 people have signed up, with the first 200,000 within 24 hours. Now, that is pretty impressive. Okay, it doesn't have a policy platform. It doesn't have a structure. It doesn't even have a name. It's clear that Jeremy Corbyn is still very popular. Now, of course, unsurprisingly, this has brought on attacks from those in the corporate media. Radical centrist Nick Tyrone said, if Corbyn was at least marginally intellectual, I get it a little more, but he doesn't even present the pretense of having worked out some solutions. It's just reheated teenage Marxism, and a fairly dull version of it at that. Now, I'm still yet to see what's reheated Marxism here. Reducing inequality, ending poverty, and taxing the rich? Well, that has nothing to do with Marxism. I know, because I'm a Marxist. Now, one of the worst accounts on Twitter, the last Blairite, clues obviously in the name, they said it's going to be wild just how anti-Semitic this new Corbyn Sultana party is going to be. That's the same person who called Bernie Sanders an anti-Semite, by the way. Sanders, who was Jewish, who had family members killed in the Holocaust. Alistair Campbell went on Sky News and tried to make it out that the popularity of this new party is all about Gaza.
Party that's launching today, involving, of course, Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana. I mean, do you think they're the real deal?
Well, no, but I do think it's a sign of a time when politics is maybe becoming more fragmented. Look, the Labour Party is in government. It's got a big majority. I think the way to deal with both reform and a new left-wing party is actually, if the Labour government just to govern well and do the things that they said they were going to do. But there's no doubt Jeremy Corbyn has a following. He's got a certain appeal to a certain demographic. I think coming along at the time when Gaza is back, really back in the news. I mean, it should never have left the news, but it's right back there at the heart of it. I suspect that's why they've chosen now to launch this. But Labour's got to govern well and have the British people understand that they're governing for them. And Jeremy Corbyn will do what Jeremy Corbyn does.
Of course, Gaza is a key issue, but people were angry with Labour under Keir Starmer as soon as 2021. It's not just foreign policy. It's the fact that they are neoliberal. They take donations from corporations and billionaires. Now, we've said for a while that the left needs to sound more and be more aggressive and take no shit. Well, I like what Zara Sultana has been saying lately. We've reached 230,000 sign-ups. That's more than Reform's membership. Nigel Farage, Zahra Youssef, Richard Tice, Lee Anderson, and you've got James McMurdoch and Rupert Lowe crossed out there because they're former Reform MPs. She says, your boys are taking one hell of a beating. Labour, you're next. That's the type of energy I want to see. Sarah, all this talk in the media about the new party having a disastrous opening, confusion with the name, etc. Is this a comms problem that we should be worried about in the future, or is this even a big deal?
No, it's not a big deal at all. Like, absolutely not. I think the media are they're fussing over it a little bit too much. But can I just say, when I saw Alistair Campbell's face, I just think he's such a wet wipe. I'll talk about him in a second. But I think it's literally a storm in a teacup, right? Like, yeah, sure, there were a few outlets out there that jumped the gun and thought this project was actually called Your Party, leading to some trivial name confusion. But let's put that into perspective. Over 300,000 people have signed up in just a couple of days. That's insane. And the first 200,000, like you'd said, in the first 24 hours. That level of enthusiasm is virtually unprecedented in modern UK politics for a brand new initiative. We're living in a time where a lot of people do resonate with the term politically homeless. They don't feel like they resonate with any sort of political party out there. So if anything, I think what this is proving is that Corbyn and Sultana have tapped into a pretty huge reservoir of public goodwill and hunger for real change. And what Alistair Campbell was saying about the fact that, oh, yeah, it seems like they just want to like talk about Gaza, which is an important issue. Of course, it's an important issue, but obviously, it's not the only thing that this party will be focusing on. Because frankly, the real story that these media outlets need to be focusing on is the fact that that 300k plus figure is insane. It's not what the party's called right now.
Yeah, and look, obviously, email signups are different to membership because it's free, and obviously anyone around the world can do it. So clearly, the numbers are going to be quite big, and I think it's not exactly the same as membership. Having said that, though, I mean, how many organizations can you think of, political organizations, that sign up 300,000 people in 24 hours? It seems quite unprecedented. I mean, to me, if they can convert 50% of those people to fully paid up members, that's 150,000 members, which is more than the Greens, it's more than the Conservative Party, it's more than the Liberal Democrats, and that is without that will be without any media backing. So I think that's what's important to understand, because a lot of people say, "Well, it's free to do it." Yeah, but okay, what happens when they turn into a membership?
Exactly, and I think that's what matters, though, isn't it? Like that hundreds of thousands of ordinary people are so disillusioned. I mean, the fact of the matter is, lots of people feel disenfranchised. Lots of people feel disillusioned with the status quo. That's why everyone was like, well, I don't really know who to vote for. I need something new. That's why they go for reform. And I feel like if people are rushing to be part of something entirely new and undefined and unarmed, then this might be the answer. And Corbyn does have some pretty enduring popularity. And I think there is a huge appetite out there for an alternative to Starmer's centrist Labour and very Tory-esque, and the Tories. But I do think that this is what the media does, particularly of Corbyn, historically, just so much nitpicking and over branding and calling it like this disastrous opening, or a communications blunder. I think it's just bad faith framing, to be honest.
I mean, we weren't going to expect any sort of good faith framing on a left wing party, but I think in terms of I mean, the media is characterizing as two stuff ups for the launch of a party. The first time was when Zara Sultana sort of came out and said, "We're doing a new party," and Jeremy was like, kind of didn't really know what was going on. I mean, that was what it looked like in the public eye. And the second time is the confusion of this name. But I'm thinking, like, no one's going to remember that shit in 6 months' time. I mean, think of all the scandals from Reform. Think of all, like, I mean, James McMurdoch, who's no longer an MP, he punched his girlfriend or something like that. All these scandals from right-wing parties and the Conservatives, and like, what, we're going to be dwelling over the confusion of a name? I don't think that particularly matters, does it? I think, and the thing is, I suppose some people might think, well, first impressions matter. But I think actually, in terms of politics, it really, really doesn't. I mean, in some ways, people have really short memories.
They do. I think the bottom line here is that Jeremy Corbyn remains pretty popular, and that's what's going to kind of sustain him throughout all of this. And I think with a huge section of the public, and the establishment knows it, like those sign-ups aren't like bots or some fringe like extremists. These people are ordinary people. They're teachers, nurses, students, workers, parents, people like who, like I said earlier, feel politically homeless. And I fed up with being told by Nick Tyrone what is or isn't serious politics. Like, if anything, I think the media's hyper focus on ridiculous things is them trying to pivot away from what would be a very, very massive grassroots response. I think they'd rather talk about branding gaffes and confront why so many Brits are flocking to Corbyn and Sultana's banner in the first place. So I think like this launch quirk, whatever, like quote unquote major comms failure is literally just a footnote. People won't remember it. You're so right.
Well, I mean, Corbyn's team have said that the average donation is £14.50. So it's ordinary people who are signing up, and they've pulled in quite a bit of money. In terms of the name confusion, I think they're quite happy with that because it's getting media traction, actually. So I think that's. I honestly think these little mishaps are neither here nor there. In 6 months' time, what matters is the messaging. That's what matters. I do want to ask you about the structures, though, right? So a grassroots, full-on Democratic Party, which is built from the ground up, that is definitely something new. Now, I'm not going to discount the Greens. The Greens are very democratic. They are member-led. They do get to decide policy. But a full-blown democratic party that's created from the ground up, so much so that people can literally chip in and decide what it's going to look like, that is new. But even the name of the party will be democratically decided. Do you think that goes a bit far, right? Policies and structure being democratic, very good. But extending it to the name, I mean, do you worry that it could be too bureaucratic? Things such as logos, images, and names. For me, I'm fully happy for that to be decided by someone who's clued up on political strategy. Could we see the party sort of be held back from getting on with taking on Reform and Labour because they're too busy deciding on things that don't really need to be decided by hundreds of thousands of people?
Yeah, you raise an interesting point, to be fair. And I think at first blush, like, yeah, probably one might worry about it. Like, won't that get a little bit like unwieldy? But could endless member debates over the party name or logo slow down the real work of taking on, Reform and Labour? And I think it's a fair question, but I actually think this is an ultra democratic approach as part of like the secret source of the project, and its strengths, I think, will outweigh the risks as long as it's handled smartly. So first off, giving members a say in everything, even the name, sends a powerful signal. It says this party truly belongs to its supporters. It truly belongs to the people. And that's an immediate differentiator from like traditional parties where branding and decisions are tightly controlled by a small team of like strategists who come from the elites and focus groups. So by contrast, I think Corbyn and Sultana are doing a great job at saying, no, you build this party because it's your party. And that's a level of empowerment that can be incredibly energizing for a disillusioned society. And you could imagine being one of those supporters that, you don't just sign up as a passive name or an email list. You get to actually shape the identity from day one. So I think if thousands of people participate in choosing the name, then they will feel real ownership over that whole movement. So I think like on a psychological level, it's fucking huge. Like you knock on doors, like I think people will feel like more like obligated to knock on doors to get involved, to be like, listen, hey, I want to be like, what else can I do? I don't just want to pick a name, I want to go volunteer. So could it become bureaucratic? Possibly. But that's only if it's not managed well. I think we've all seen the joke about Boaty McBoat phase. Like you open a public vote on a name and you might get something creative. But I have faith that the organisers will set up a process to keep things sensible.
Yeah, as long as there's nothing like collective, and I know that's already kind of one of the names in there, but that's not the political party, or like solidarity or socialism. Look, I really don't like these names because it just speaks to the activist base, but to the ordinary person, collective doesn't really mean anything. Solidarity, like especially where we're in an era of like non-solidarity. I want something aggressive. It's why I like Reform's name, because it's like we are going to reform this, we're going to reform that. I mean, my name suggestions aren't particularly great, but I'm like alternative party because we can say we are the alternative to the billionaire class, or the People's Party. It's you get it straight away. But look, we're discussing small issues here, neither here nor there. I am really excited though to see this democratic project, a genuine ground up grassroots democratic party is really exciting, and I really want to see where this goes.
Support independent media, support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you. Turn left.